Did the Nuggets performance in game 2 change your opinion? We know that you think the Nuggets will win the series. Have you reconsidered?
That game was drunk. I've really never seen anything like that, where at the end of the first quarter, I'm like, wow, the Heat played really well, but they should have been up by more than 3 points. And then when I did see the third quarter, I thought that game was over. So I got to give a lot of credit to Miami. I've said Miami's going to be a tough out, but I still think they're losing in 6 games is what I went with, and I'll continue to go with that.
Has it been an entertaining series? Because, obviously we're local, so we have vested interest in the team. You do a national show, and there was a thought, the Panthers and Golden Knights are not going to have much of an audience. They're non-traditional hockey markets, and I think that there is some interest. I think TNT has done that series a solid by putting on Matthew Tkachuk with the NBA on TNT guys and making him a little bit of a story. Vegas obviously always has a little bit of an allure. We were talking, I don't know how much people love watching Nikola Jokic as good as he is. And I don't know if Jimmy Butler, while his postseason has been phenomenal, I don't know if he's a national superstar. I'm just curious, the national response to the series, has it been entertaining?
I think there's a lot of lazy jackasses in the national media that will now all of a sudden want to go to ratings and what they think are going to be ratings heading into a series when they may not be interested because they don't get to travel a certain place. And Miami is excluded from that because Miami is a great place to go to. I like going to Denver because I have family out there. But I think there's been a lot of selfish people in the media. When I look at game 2, game 1 was not all that entertaining, but when you look at game 2, how are you not entertained with that game? If you weren't entertained with that game, you just don't like sports.
You saw Ramona Shelburne. She asked Spo, and I thought it was a fair question, and apparently they've squashed the beef. She mentioned on ESPN that Spo texted her after, apologized. He didn't mean to get snappy with her, but she basically asked him if they tried to turn Jokic into more of a scorer, and he called it ridiculous. It's the untrained eye that says something like that. And I guess I'm of the untrained eye, Gelb, because I thought it was a fair question. Denver's 1-4 when he scores 39 or more in the playoffs this postseason, and they were 7-13 all year when he had 8 assists or fewer. So to me, it seems pretty simple. Let him go off and eliminate his playmaking abilities. So is this just like gamesmanship from Spo, or do you think he really believes that it's an unfair way to analyze what they did? Because it seemed to have worked for Miami.
Well, I guess I have an untrained eye as well, and maybe that's why I wear glasses, because I had Mike Breen on my show after game 1, and I said to him, if I was the coach of Miami, if I was Spoelstra, and clearly I don't have Hall of Fame credentials, I would let Nikola Jokic be a scorer or try to be a scorer and then try to limit everybody else and go all out against the other 4 guys, because I've been saying this all year. Nikola Jokic is the best player on Denver, but for them to win a championship, Jamal Murray is their MVP. They've done a good job on Jamal Murray so far. He's not had a great game in this series. Michael Porter Jr. did nothing in game 2, and outside of the first few minutes of game 1, Aaron Gordon hasn't really done anything as well. What I think happened here was Spoelstra just thought that was an easy way of saying it. It would be taking away credit from Nikola Jokic, and that's why I think he kind of scoffed at the question, but it was totally a fair question and something that a lot of people have been saying, so maybe a lot of us have untrained eyes.
When we mentioned Spo, so Solana and I were having this conversation. So Spo, after game 1, I think he's, Bill Belichick. You give Bill Belichick 10 days to prepare. He plays on a Thursday night, the next game not till a week from Sunday. You give him that long, he's going to come up with a way to beat you. And after game 1, Spo had a couple and a half days. I said, he's going to come up with something. And he did. He inserts Kevin Love into the starting lineup. We talked about this yesterday when Crowder was here. They go with Duncan Robinson in the fourth quarter instead of Max Strus, who had given you good minutes, and Duncan Robinson's minutes were even better. Now Michael Malone, if this is a chess match, now Michael Malone has a couple days to come up with something. After the game, it didn't seem like he had any problem with his game plan. It seemed like he had a problem with the effort level of his team. So I wonder, what do you think he does for game 3? Do you think there are any drastic changes, or his whole mantra is, nope, just up our effort, we'll be fine?
I think we sometimes, because we have so many days in between these games, we have too much analysis and we try to all have the most intelligent thing or the smartest thing in the world. It's very simple. you got to hit your shots. Jamal Murray hasn't hit his shots enough. Michael Porter Jr. hasn't hit his shots enough as well. Look at game 1 to game 2 for Miami. We could all talk about Kevin Love and the approach on Nikola Jokic. Miami hit their shots, whether it was Strus, Gabe Vincent, or even Duncan Robinson in the fourth quarter.
Duncan Robinson
that's what it
is
comes
probably
down
the first
to.
guy you should mention. He's not an or even. I mean, Duncan Robinson is Duncan Robinson. Don't do that. Not on this show. You will not.
That was not disrespectful. Oh,
sounded disrespectful. Solana, didn't that
How
sound
is that disrespectful?
Like or even Duncan Robinson.
Man.
I mean, it sounded a little disrespectful to me.
You get thrown in this apartment right now, and now you're all annoyed and easily perturbed like this? Come on, Hochman. I thought you actually
I'm not going to allow Duncan
had
Robinson
a little tough skin
on this show.
That wasn't slander at all, please. All you Miami media guys, you try to start things up.
You're looking at the leader of the Duncan Robinson army in Mark Hochman. I mean, this guy, when Spo had him seated 12th behind Udonis Haslem this year on the bench, Hawk was the only person that had the guts to come out and say, Duncan Robinson should be getting more minutes. And it happened to work out for Hawk because he's been playing really well in the postseason. I mean, we saluted our president, Duncan Robinson, yesterday.
Well, I'll salute him as well, but here's the thing. Hawk is just very lazy. That's what it is. It's because he looks at Duncan Robinson and goes, oh, that reminds me of myself, someone that doesn't look like they should be playing basketball. And I'm sure when he goes, says hello to Dusty May in his bougie Boca Raton area of living, he starts hitting all these 3-point shots in the local JCC.
Yeah, but who knew Duncan Robinson's got an inside game? I never had an inside game. You have to marvel, in all honesty, because you do the national show. And I know this has been a running storyline. You have to marvel at the Heat with guys like Duncan Robinson and Max Strus and Caleb Martin and these undrafted guys who are not just every now and then hitting a big shot, who are actually playing quality starter minutes in an NBA final, let alone the entire postseason. I mean, you have to marvel at that.
You know when you kind of realize it? When Gabe Vincent in the last series had that ankle injury, missed the game, and it was like, oh my God, they're missing 20 points. And I'm sitting there, I go, Gabe Vincent is a massive loss for the Miami Heat. And as I said that, I go, what am I smoking? Like, what am I drinking? I would have never thought I would say those words on a national radio show, but that's what makes this Miami Heat team so fun, is there's so many guys that you just look at and you go, you can't really expect much out of them. But then you watch them play, and night in and night out, they end up giving really productive minutes and keep on finding a way to grind out victories. And that's why this Miami team, I know people probably get sick of it because you hear the word gritty and things along that line, but that's what makes them so good, is you don't know who's going to show up night in and night out, but they consistently find a way to get enough guys to slay some of the better teams in the NBA.
You can hear Zach Gelb every evening nationally on CBS Sports Radio. Heat are 2.5-point underdogs at home tomorrow night. Does that sound about right to you?
Well, it's probably a sucker bet because I did take Miami plus 8.5. So thank you very much, Eric Spoelstra, Udonis Haslem, for doing whatever you do on the bench, Alonzo Mourning and Pat Riley. I thank you guys a lot for getting me that little winning for yours truly. Right after the game, I absolutely hammered Denver minus 2.5, because that is a low spread. And now a day later, I'm like looking at the cash out option and saying that's probably too good to be true. Denver at minus 2.5. So I feel like it's a sucker bet, but I'm not going to cash out. I'm going to ride with it.
There's not a scenario. Solana and I were talking about this earlier. There's not a scenario where the Heat are going to be favored in this series, right? Even if they come out tomorrow night and beat Denver and it's 2 wins in a row, the prevailing notion nationally is going to be, well, Denver will get it together. I mean, this happened in the Boston series.
Yeah.
Denver. This happened in the Milwaukee series. The Bucks, the Celtics, they'll get it together because they're a better team. And so I don't think there's a scenario where the Heat are favorites in this series.
Well, even going into game 7, I know momentum was totally shot. They were an 8.5-point dog or something along those lines. If they take a 2-1 lead, though, not that I would then say, oh, they're definitely going to win game 4, because this feels like it's going to be 2-2 one way or another going back to Denver for a game 5. But you would think logically, if they take the first 2 out of 3 games in the series, 2 out of 3 games in the series, then they should be favored in game 4. But you're probably right. They won't be a favorite in game 4 regardless.
Hey, real quick, because we're going to be up against a break. So, and this is not something that you can actually give a quick take on because, as I've said all day, there's so many tentacles.
Yeah.
What do you make of the PGA Tour Live Golf Tour merger announcement today?
Like a year ago, everyone was fired up. And then when the first two majors came around this year, it was like, who really cares? Because Live Golf has been out of sight, out of mind because it wasn't really doing any TV ratings or really making any national news outside of when these guys show up to the major championships. My quick take on this is Jay Monahan is just an absolute fraud. He is the ultimate do what I say, not as I do type of guy. How you talk about 9/11, which is, I live 2 blocks from where the Twin Towers were. So that's very sensitive growing up as a New Yorker. You use that to benefit your argument. But the minute when you get the money, you take it and run. I've talked to a bunch of people in the golf world today. The golfers are absolutely furious, and I don't blame them because if I'm a PGA Tour golfer, I didn't take these enormous mega deals, and now I'm sitting here looking like the biggest moron in the world where everyone's saying Phil Mickelson, Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson and company are now big winners.
Yeah, it's so hypocritical, but I was telling Solana earlier, as I get older, I become more cynical about this stuff because I see it over and over again, which is
it's all about the money.
Here's the morality of it. And then all of a sudden, the benefit is for me. Oh, well, let me tell you about the morality of it. And because that's what Monahan's going to do, right? He's going to give you this big, long word salad about why this was necessary for the sport. But in the meantime, he really just comes across as a hypocritical clown.
And it's better to get everyone together, especially for casual golf fans. But here's what I'll say about Jay Monahan. I think this will encapsulate just how much of a fraud that he is. If he was in New York City today and asked me to go to Katz's Deli with him, I would not eat the meal with him with how much I love Katz's Deli. That's how much I think Jay Monahan is just an absolute scum.
That's how you know that he's got a strong take there.
Yeah.
But again, that's the morality of it. Zach Gelb is going to stand on his morality there. But then Monahan's going to say, in addition to Katz's Deli, I'm going to give you a check for $15,000. And guess what?
And then I'm going to take the money and absolutely run with it. And,
Jay,
Jay,
that's what I'm saying. As I become
do you want me to get the mustard on your pastrami?
That's exactly right. So we're all guilty of it. We just got to find our price. Zach Gelb, you'll hear him tonight, CBS Sports Radio. Always enjoy talking to you. See you, Gelby.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.